Further education versus higher education in the United States in 2024. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, visit areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com, at which you will complete a free 3-minute assessment. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and they will help you clarify whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. I got to thinking about further education versus higher education when I was reading an article in the student newspaper of my alma mater, University of Pennsylvania. The student newspaper name is the Daily Pennsylvanian. The day after Election Day in the United States, 2024, let's take a look at this article. I'll read some key parts of it to you. I'm not even going to read the headline because it's so inappropriate, other than to say the last part of the headline, which is hopeful watch parties at Penn devolve into dismay as Trump clinches victory. Watch parties across Penn's campus devolved into surprise and sorrow through early Wednesday morning, with students expressing anxiety and dismay as former president and 1968 Wharton graduate Donald Trump appeared poised for a second term. Soon after the polls closed at 8 p.m., students flocked to watch parties at residential college houses with mixed feelings of uncertainty, nervousness, and excitement about the possibilities of the election. As the night progressed, many students tracked the results with growing distress as Trump neared the necessary electoral vote threshold, while others shared a more neutral or cautious outlook. Notice how there was no one who was happy, because even if they were, they could not state as much publicly. Around 50 students gathered at Gutman College House to watch ABC News election coverage. The room was filled with lively discussion as students lined up for free falafel wraps and discussed their hopes for the night ahead. The college first-year student, who is also a secretary senior deputy for Penn Democrats, spoke early on in the night of his extensive involvement in this year's election cycle, describing his intended role to, quote, defend democracy. Quote, "This is my first election cycle, and I'm just really anxious about the outcome," he said, hours before the Trump call. Students shifted their attention more closely to the TV screen as results came in throughout the night. Some groups discussed the implications of each state update, while others quietly observed, periodically refreshing news sources on their phones. While the number of students dwindled as the night continued, those who remained expressed distress at the progression of the state calls. Graduate student Leaf Ye, who called herself politically liberal, said that she was deeply concerned about the consequences of a Trump presidency on reproductive justice. Quote, "I haven't allowed myself to visualize what another 4 years of Trump in office would look like. I haven't processed the way of that and all the possibilities that could bring," Ye said. "It just feels really unbelievable that there are people who vote in a way that's so inconceivably immoral and illogical to me." In contrast, engineering sophomore Connor Wang said at 11 p.m. that he was not particularly stressed out because he did not believe either presidential choice would significantly improve or worsen his life. Quote, "I really don't have very strong views either way, so I'm not particularly upset whatever happens," Wang said. Emotions ran high at the Reap College House election watch party, which alternated between screening CNN and MSNBC. Students chattered, yelled across the room at times, and crowded around the couch, debating which candidate would win each state. Harris's win of New York elicited cheers from the audience. Early in the night, students at the REAP watch party expressed optimism about the night ahead. College first year and class of 2028 president Mert Kayabas, who is also a former staffer for the Daily Pennsylvanian, said he was excited to see the results come in as polls closed and noted a general feeling of excitement around the election. Quote, "It's really nice to be surrounded by people who care as much as I care," Kayaba said. "We're a diverse college where everybody has different opinions. And although we are a more left-leaning liberal college, it's very nice to get different perspectives from people who care about it as much as you do," end quote. As the night continued, some students shared growing feelings of anxiety about the direction of the election results. College first year Howie Chen said shortly before 11 p.m. that he felt, quote, "a little pessimistic and afraid," end quote, as he watched Trump take the lead in electoral votes, while acknowledging that it typically takes longer to count Democratic-leaning large cities. Quote, "I'm not hopeless, but I am definitely still anxious," Chen said. Quote, "I think this election in general represents how polarized we are by party, but I didn't think it would be this close considering how many devout Republicans announced support for Kamala," end quote. An hour later, Warden first year Gauri Gupta expressed dismay at the disparity between her expectation for a Harris win and the incoming results. Quote, "Now that I'm watching the polls in real time, it's honestly nerve-wracking seeing how extremely close it is and trending towards Trump winning," Gupta said. Quote, "I feel like it completely contradicts all the campaign and election spirit I've seen at Penn. I know that the votes are still trickling in, and I'm still trying to keep my hopes up," end quote. Hill College House broadcast CNN election coverage in the club lounge and central atrium to a crowd of around 150 students. Elizabeth Scheider, a faculty fellow at Hill College House, said that the watch party was organized to provide an opportunity for students to come together to watch the future unfold. Quote, "We have so many students who vote, or it's their first time watching an election in the United States," Scheider said. "They wanted to come see it," end quote. A college student named Zoe said she joined her friends to watch the election with an understanding as a first-time voter of, quote, "what's at stake and how it affects her future." The succession of Trump calls for states caused some students a sense of foreboding about the election's direction. After Trump won the swing state of North Carolina, college first-year Robin Anand said it was a bad harbinger for Trump's momentum in other states considered pivotal. Some students at Hill spoke about ways to cope with the stress as Trump won several battleground states, detailing drinking games as Harris lost or won a state because of the stressful nature of the election. After Georgia was called for Trump, a Wharton first-year student named Maya said the situation felt, quote, "a little apocalyptic," end quote. Shortly after midnight, nursing first-year Michael Parella, who attended the REAP watch party, told the DP that the results so far had completely contradicted his expectations for a Harris win. Quote, "I have knocked on over 2,000 doors. I have done so much for the Kamala Harris campaign. I've called so many phones," he said. And I will not say the word. Then he said it again. And then he said, "We're kind of screwed over, and I'm heartbroken. And I felt so confident. I think just saying," and he said it again, "has summed up this entire night as a whole," he added. I will just share one little thing at the end. Look at this that was written as a sort of an editorial note. This article has been updated to remove a quote from a student included under the incorrect terms of attribution and to clarify the stance of a student at the REAP College House watch party. It's very interesting how sensitive students are to how they are being quoted on this because, you know, they're living in an environment that is not free in any way, shape, or form, and where people are punished for their views. That is very illustrative, not just of the University of Pennsylvania. Of course, I'm picking on Penn, but this could be applicable to any post-secondary institution in the United States. A feeling of, you know, looking over your back, not wanting to say the wrong thing, as it relates to the party line that exists basically on all these campuses. And this, again, got me thinking long and hard about further education versus higher education. The American tertiary education system, this is post-secondary education, in the United States over the last 50 years has very much transitioned from being a higher education environment to a further education environment. And there's a distinction. Higher education implies you are going to be learning at a higher level. You are going to be broadening and deepening your knowledge. You are going to be considering things from various perspectives. Whereas further education implies you're going to continue to be educated. It's going to be more than you received in high school, but it's not necessarily going to stretch you outside of your preconceived notions or what you think you know. It's definitely not going to stretch you outside of your safe space. And so this article very much demonstrates that Penn is a further education institution these days, much more than it is a higher education institution these days. And I'm very sad to report that because, of course, I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I want it to continue to be an amazing institution that really challenges students to think broadly, deeply from various perspectives, from a diversity of perspectives about challenging questions so that graduates can go out into the world and be dynamic, thoughtful, and change-making individuals and advancing society and civilization. But if everyone stays in their little cocoon and is only exposed to ideas and perspectives that comport with their pre-existing ideas and perspectives, then you're going to get an article like this, which basically there was not one person quoted saying that he or she's really excited. Everyone was neutral or extremely negative. And that is demonstrative, of course, of the University of Pennsylvania, because look at this. The University of Pennsylvania's district voting precinct, if you will, went 81.6% for Harris. Okay, so there are different places to vote on campus. 81.6% went to Harris. What does that say about diversity at an institution that preaches diversity almost in every sentence of its official communications? What it says is that it's a lie. There is no diversity at Penn's campus. It is a uniform environment where 2 in 10 at most are voting for the person who won the election in 2024. At most, I didn't even dig into the numbers. It's very possible that it's a much lower number because third parties leaving ballots blank, etc. So what does that say about the ideological diversity of the University of Pennsylvania? It says there's very little political ideological diversity. And that, of course, could be changed overnight if the powers that be at Penn cared to change it. You know, all of these institutions put out press releases and statements about how they're constantly really focused on the value of diversity, and it increases the quality of the education of all students. This is, of course, true as it relates to demographics or country of origin or state of origin or race or ethnicity, but it has very little to do, clearly, with true diversity of perspectives on big issues of the day. Because if it did, there would be not an 81.6% of students voting for Kamala Harris at the University of Pennsylvania. And even if 90% were voting for Kamala Harris, there would be far less shock and surprise in the student population that Trump could win if they were actually being exposed on a regular basis to a true diversity of opinions from their professors, from peers, even if just, as an exercise in let's take the opposite opinion sometimes. Not even that is happening. Penn and other peer institutions have a lot of work to do to finally return to becoming higher education institutions in the United States. And one way they could easily do it is to actually meet the diversity of students in the United States where they are, not just in friendly environments that those in the admissions office at Penn and other schools want to be. And what do I mean by that? Well, Penn, for instance, has social media, but it and a number of other Ivy League institutions made a conscious decision after Elon Musk took over Twitter and renamed it X to pull back from posting on X. The admissions offices in particular stopped posting to X or stopped promoting that they even had X accounts. Now, X is known as a place that is not left-wing these days. Instagram, Facebook, all these other social media platforms are basically viewed as neutral or left of center in their overall disposition. Whereas X is certainly considered neutral or to the right overall these days, both because of its current owner, but also just because of the opinions that are algorithmically posted and popularized on the site. Why is Penn? Why are none of the other Ivy League schools' admissions offices currently posting on X? It's not as though the institutions themselves have required the admissions offices to get off of X. The reason I know this is because very many different departments at all of the Ivy League institutions post on X. Different academic departments, sports teams, they're all posting on X. Official departments. The institutions themselves have X accounts that they still post to. But the admissions offices at all of the Ivy League institutions as of today, when I am making this video, have all suspended operations on X for over a year because the powers that be in the admissions and enrollment offices at each and every Ivy League school do not like that X has a diversity of opinion politically. What does that say to a right-leaning or conservative student or family about these admissions offices' priorities and values as it relates to ideological diversity? What it says is that the powers that be cannot stand ideological diversity at the Ivy League schools, and specifically within the admissions offices. Again, it's not as though the president's office or the Department of Anthropology or the sports teams are not posting on X at all of these Ivy League schools. They are. It's simply the admissions offices that refuse to post on X, which is a forum known to welcome individuals now of diverse political persuasions and as sort of an open town square to air out different ideas politically. All of the other social media platforms in the United States, by and large, have severe censoring regimes that prevent a full spectrum of ideological diversity from being presented. And that is where the admissions leadership at each and every Ivy League school feels more comfortable posting than on X. So there you have it. That is why 81% of students at Penn and others in the Penn community basically are voting for Kamala Harris. The people who are the gatekeepers at the Ivy League institutions do not want Republicans on campus. They do not want ideas on campus that make them feel uncomfortable or they disagree with. And that's why you have completely clueless students who couldn't even conceive of a world in which Donald Trump won, let alone actually interact with more than 2 in 10 students who would ever even consider voting for him. University of Chicago, I should say, keeps posting on X. So University of Chicago is not too good for X, but apparently each and every Ivy League school is. Now, please don't take this as a commercial for X. I rarely post to X. I'd post on X once every 4 or 5 months. I do YouTube mainly, as you can see, and I'm occasionally on Facebook. So I'm not a big social media person other than YouTube. So again, this is not a commercial for X, but what I will say is this could change overnight. Whitney Soule over at Penn could start posting on X again. She could start engaging with students who feel comfortable in that environment, as opposed to simply posting where the powers that be in the admissions office at Penn feel comfortable, Instagram, elsewhere. So keep that in mind. The Ivy League schools are echo chambers because the gatekeepers at those institutions do not want to be around and accept individuals of diverse political perspectives. They can't help themselves. They are biased. They do discriminate. Now, let's say you really want to get into Penn and you want to do everything you can to ensure that your application is top-notch. You would benefit from my pre-read. When you finished your Common App and you want to know if it's as strong as possible and whether or not, in its current condition, your chances of admission are impressive, inconclusive, or inadequate, you need my pre-read. Getting my pre-read now means having me review your entire application, just like an admissions officer or admissions committee will review it later, and receiving by email no later than the time you reserve a comprehensive report highlighting what's working and what's not on your full Common App and one Common App supplement. If you've yet to submit your Common App, my pre-read may motivate you to make adjustments to it before your deadline. If you've already submitted your Common App, my pre-read will prepare you for what I deem to be your likely admissions outcome at the institution in question. To purchase my pre-read now, go to mypreread.com. Again, that's mypreread.com. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process, go to my website, which is collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.